That was yesterday. Welcome. He had a cover. He was had a lot and good. But he and it really was that the COVID? Oh, okay. I'm struggling so hard. Yeah. Trying to get up those stairs all through like. And but we had like I'm almost like I could get partner your book over little. But he did. I was yeah, a lot. Very. He just couldn't very. He was well done. Like. Well, now I feel like I got some other hands. Well, I feel like you sound a little more lively anyway. Yeah, I haven't got coffee for lunch. I'm like, what? And I thought that how about I don't sleep tonight. But I don't get to sleep tonight anyway. I gotta be at the airport at 2 o'clock in the morning. Where are you at? Wyoming. Oh, okay. Yeah. My flight leaves at 5:15. Wow. Yeah. Our flight is at 2 p.m. We're gonna plan to be here around 11. Yeah. Everybody else is like, I live in a really tiny town. We're like all spread out over Wyoming. I live in a tiny town. I think that came from there. I'm going to be. But it comes out of their mouth because it covers me. I read well about. But in that we have that I was there the passport the other day. I got like 2.5 hours of it. And there was a developing passport. Yeah, I was really thinking I was getting away too late for the day. But it's just crazy. And there was people there that here all day. Yeah. About 3 and yeah, I think $114.
You know, are they taping, recording the session? I don't think they're recording them, but your PowerPoint is there. Okay, yeah. Or even if some of those are pretty too, like, oh, I got a handout. I don't think they're. I haven't seen anybody. But I'm like. Yeah.
Hello, hello. I'll give it another minute or two just because everyone's coming in from lunch. Because it's a small group, how do I feel about coming forward and grab a chair? And this is a lot of show and tell, hands-on, technical conversation. You're going to realize that I am probably the most relaxed presenter there. And question, input, all of that kind of stuff is so welcome. So. And two, is anybody here have hearing loss or do I need to use a mic? Because I'm more than happy to use it, but you guys might not like my voice through it. So, that's why I was kind of wondering if you were videotaping those questions, because I was like, do I need to have to use the mic or anything? So. All right, I'm Sadie, and I'm from an independent living center in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So, living up there. Yeah. So, yeah. So, my I'm an independent living coordinator, but I'm also a really lost technology myself. And a lot of our area in Wisconsin, when you get outside of Green Bay, the Fox cities, it is extremely rural. I sometimes study 2.5 hours to get clients. We have Washington Island, which you take 45-minute ferry to. We have like all these areas, and like any part of the country, I'm assuming we have a caregiver shortage time. And so I ran into different things. Okay. Yeah. So maybe I am gonna have to use the mic. So, or can you guys hear me? Yeah, I have a loud voice. My husband tells me that all the time. So do my kids. So when traveling and everything, I got there and I'm like, what can we do to help support caregivers? We know that caregiver stress, caregiver burnout, all of that is real. It is happening at a high rate. With living in the community, our goal is to keep all of our, we call them consumers, some people call them clients, some people call them members, some people call them. So trying to keep them living in the community, in their own homes. We know that mental health is better when you are at home. We know that that is where people really want to be if it's appropriate. But how are we going to make that happen in all of those things when as a caregiver, I'm probably working a 40-hour work week. I am probably taking care of my own children or another family member if I if I'm not a paid caregiver. If I am a paid caregiver, my goodness, you're running all over. And, you know, it's tight, the whole thing. So, trying to figure out tips, ways, what can we do with the practical stuff that is in the stores and things like that to make the day run a little bit smoother and easier. At the center for independent living that I work at, we do not sell anything. We just find grants and things to purchase equipment, try it out, get feedback from our consumers and things about what is working, listen to them, hear from them, the caregivers themselves as to what they need, and then let's try and figure it out. Quite obviously, assistive technology gets to be some, but it's not going to be expensive. It's gotta be that big thing, it's gotta be something hard to use. I don't like my smartphone, so therefore, no, I don't want assistive technology, I can't use a computer, I don't want technology to be useful. So, it's anything that can help to increase quality of life. And so it can be as simple as a bright colored piece of paper that you're gonna write a note on to your loved one before you leave the house. And it can be as high end as, you know, we're doing high end systems so that you can do remote monitoring. I'm going to talk through it all, and I'm going to try and take that scariness a little bit away and help you to find just some practical tips. Now, as I preface, what works for one person is not going to work for every person. There might be a bad experience with one person using a certain thing, and there might be a really positive, phenomenal scenario with that same piece of equipment. So there's all those in between. So one of the big things that I always say, let's talk to the family first. Let's find out what their comfortability level is. What is their income? Can they support Wi-Fi? Can they support a monthly fee? Do they want this? Are they just looking for something very simple? What is it? What are their goals and what are they trying to achieve? I mean, sometimes I can walk into a house and be like, well, I think this, and this, but if that's not where they're at, that doesn't matter. So it's really trying to match the goal with, you know, what is out there. So I'm just gonna get into it. Please ask questions as we go along. If you use a piece of equipment, if you have a story, please share all of that. You know, no way at all am I an expert. This is just lived experience. And you'll notice that I'm going to kick off my shoes because life needs to just be comfortable. That's just, and it's at the end of a conference. And so, all right. So just kind of getting into things. And I promise you, I am not a spokesperson for Amazon or Alexa or anything of that nature. It's just one of the things I am most passionate about. So I'm going to start with this. So, one of my most favorite is the Echo Show by Amazon. Is anybody familiar? So let me get to know all of you. So, how many of you are caregivers yourself? How many of you are you work or employee caregivers or okay? Very cool. Very cool. How many of you are taking care of a loved one right now? Okay. So thank you for sharing that. So yep, you guys have all of that lived experience as well. So please share. So you're familiar with the Echo Show as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have one, all the kids have, my grandkids have one in their bedroom.
Okay.
Yes, runs the ground stand the ground wall.
Oh, very fun, very fun. Awesome. You want to hear the cool video?
Yeah, well, then you can holler at them.
Yeah.
Get upstairs with me.
So, one of my biggest things is, you know, with remote caregiving, okay, mom does okay, you know, throughout the day, she's doing okay. But it would be nice to kind of just be able to talk to her, kind of get some kind of soda. Maybe charge her phone when she doesn't put it back on the cradle, so the cordless phone, even though they still has a landline, can't get a hold of her, maybe can't find it. Different things of that nature, and so one of the things that I have found, which has worked out the best for caregiving, is the Alexa with the drop-in feature. So I'm going to demonstrate it, let's pray that the Wi-Fi died in my video. So, an Alexa is a one-time purchase, you do have to have Wi-Fi though. You can technically run it off of Bluetooth, but that Bluetooth needs to have a thing, so we're just gonna, for ease of life, there does need to be Wi-Fi in the home, but it's a one-time purchase. And then I would just, on my end, I can just have just the free app on my phone. So I would go to the app on my phone. And I'm gonna select to drop in. And what happens is. I'm gonna walk away. And yeah, right, at first you do a little bit of privacy. But then you will start turning clear. And then you can see me, and I look you. And the nice feature is that if you have a little bit of memory loss, you have a little bit of maybe mobility, you can't reach, you can't do the swipe, it automatically comes on the screen. So, my mom lives about 45 miles away from me. And then she also winters in Florida. And so we got her a number show. I mean, she's still very mobile, she's still very all that kind of stuff, but I'm someone who like, I'm a nervous daughter. Called mom yesterday, she didn't answer, I called her twice today, she's still not answering. I'm okay. Drop in. My coffee and I was that. I was doing the food pantry and I'm like, oh, okay, you're safe and sound. That's gross. So it's an easy way, you know, to get a hold of someone. Now, yes, you can do FaceTiming. Are we all familiar with FaceTime? The one thing with FaceTime, and I love FaceTime, I FaceTime all the time, but you have to be able to have the ability to swipe. This does not. So in some instances where this has come in really handy with remote caregiving, we had a mom who early stages of dementia, but was doing pretty well at home. Her biggest struggle though was she had diabetes and taking her insulin. She was on a sliding scale. And she had several hospital stays due to the fact that she was misdoing her insulin shots. And so the three doctors came to me and said, okay, we are now taking turns running over to mom's house at lunch, making sure she's doing her sliding scale, all of this. We do not keep this up. We've been doing it for 9 months. It is great, but you know, they were using their time off at work or their PTO at work. They were doing all of this with going over to mom's. And so we put the Alexa in, and at lunchtime, each girl took a different day, they'd be sitting at their desk at work. Mom would sit down at the table, they'd be like, Mom, and she would come sit down, she would test her diabetes, she would do all of her fingerprints, all of that. They would help her out with the sliding scale, because they were able to see all of the numbers. And then they watched that she took the correct amount. They reduced her hospitalizations by almost 100% because it's an echo show by, yeah, I'm gonna get to why it's called that.
Okay, I'm like, wait,
There's the umbrella term, which are called Alexa. There are many different types of Alexa.
Oh, okay.
There's an Echo Dot, there's the Dot something or another, the Dot Mini, and then the Echo Shows are the ones with the screens. And so. Echo Show. Yep, so just echo like, my voice echoes, yep, no, thank you for asking.
Now, if you have, because I have someone who, both his parents live in the same house, who are also, older, but they don't talk, as I know, it's a strange thing, they live in separate parts of the house.
Yeah.
Now, can you have two separate ones and be able to check it on two different?
Yes. So you can, through the device, you can call in, so Alexa.
Well, one's listening when I go.
No, you can name them different, you can do Alexa and. The computer. Okay, computer, so you can call them two different things. Alexa. Drop in on Stacy.
Did you mean Stacy Shiva?
Yes. And so now she's gonna drop in actually my one in my office. So you could be in Japan. You could be in wherever, and you can drop in, it does not matter. So the device could be up in the bedroom, it could be in the hallway, it does not matter. You can go from one device to another, which is phenomenal. And so, also too, there is where you can turn off, you notice, I just turned off the camera. There is the feature to turn off the camera, so I thought I'd show that there too. Yes?
What you were saying about having two people in the same house.
Yeah.
This is.
They should be from on here.
Okay, just one second.
Or mom, dad, so. So, for example.
Jamie, can you post the text in chat?
Yeah, so the cost of the device, that's a really, really good question. So the size that is sitting right here, this is the 8. Amazon Prime Days just ended, but it was $85 on Amazon Prime Days. Now, it'll probably, then right now it's probably more like 130, 140. The smaller ones, like Amazon Prime Days, Black Friday, all of those things, they can be in the $40-ish range. Then they do make bigger. They make a 15-inch screen. That one is in the 200. They also make one that rotates all around and follows the track field. I will tell you though, it is pretty creepy. And I wouldn't say I would recommend it if you have anyone who has some dementia, memory loss, anxiety, because it really is. It just keeps moving all day long, looking for us to track. And so
I was just trying
that one's a little. But some of our stories of success, so there was a lady with diabetes. We also have a gentleman who was up on Washington Island. He had a stroke, and this was during COVID, like during the heart of COVID. And he was doing fine living alone, but because of COVID, they just didn't want to take him out because of health. And so one of his granddaughters was getting married down in Kansas City.
And all they had to do, the family members went into the app, they held up the phone during the wedding, and he sat there and watched the entire wedding on the screen. And then at the reception, they passed the phone around, and he talked to people he hadn't seen in years, aunts, uncles. So it's a really great thing. We also paired with one of our hospice programs, and they would bring these in at the last stages, especially during COVID. But when families can't fly in or travel, then this way they can have their last moments and things with them and things of that nature. So it really helps to bring it in. The other features where I really like it is the fun stuff. So like me and my mom, she'll be down in Florida. She goes down, she's actually leaving in a week. And so she's down there during the holidays. So in our family, Thanksgiving was always a big thing. But now that my father's passed, she doesn't want to necessarily be home for the holidays. But we decide the time. All of my brothers and sisters, we all still gather for Thanksgiving. We set mom's spot at the table. There goes the Alexa, and she eats Thanksgiving dinner with us. Also, too, it was always a tradition that me and my mom made melty moment cookies at Christmas time. And I sit there, I prop up my Alexa, she's got hers, we're mixing the dough together. I'm like, Mom, why does this look so ready? Oh, honey, you need some more cornstarch for that. And it's just great. We're still able to carry on a lot of those traditions in just a very different way, but it helps keep that caregiving, that virtual connection there. We also had a family where the husband was in pretty late stages of dementia, and the mother had hearing loss. And they had tried doing a CapTel phone, they had tried doing an amplified phone, and it just wasn't the right match. She couldn't read the dictation fast enough as the little grandkids were talking. And her form of hearing loss, she could not find a good decibel on an amplified telephone. So we said, okay, let's try the Echo Show, because she was starting to feel pretty isolated because her husband couldn't come out. The grandkids didn't really want to call anymore because it wasn't a successful phone call. So we put the Alexa in. You can see body language as someone talks. And for as much as we don't realize how much we lip read and things, the grandkids started calling. The mom or her daughter would hold up her phone at her granddaughter's piano recital. She got to do the piano recital. She got to be part of the baseball game when the son was up to bat. You know, all those things, you can just bring it all into home with that drop-in feature. And so it just makes it really, really a successful adventure. So, oh, not a problem. So that is my Alexa. If you have questions, you can tell I'm passionate about it. I don't make any money from Amazon. It's just one of those things that I see a lot of great applications for it. Also, too, you can have it set, prompts, reminders, timers, all of those things. So it can come on and say, Bobby, it's time to get ready for the bus. Joni, it's time to take your evening meds. Joel, do your evening night routine, whatever it may be, it can help with those prompts, tips, reminders, and things. So, so that is my Alexa, is my Alexa. The next thing is home monitoring. Yeah.
How are you sharing your PowerPoint?
I don't have a PowerPoint.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
You're good. You can continue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So the next thing is home monitoring. You know, there's a lot of different ways to do it out there. One of the biggest things, though, is I always, you know, before the conversation comes up, have the conversation with the family. Is this something you want? Is it something that you think is going to increase quality of life? Would mom want this? All of those different types of things. There are a lot of great ways to do it and very simple. One of the ways that a lot of families have found success is the Ring doorbell, but installing it inside. The person walks past the door, you know that they're there, they might be close to wandering, they might be by the door, things of that nature. You've got the audio, you can say, John, maybe go back to the kitchen, or I'll come meet you by the door, or you can do those. You can have those conversations and different things, and you get the alert that the person is close to the door, and you can see what they are doing. So when people are talking about wandering and different things, sometimes this can be a really great different way to think about it. Also, two smart door alarms. Just getting them off of Amazon, you get them paired right to your cell phone. You get the text message, front door open, sliding door opened, all of those types of things. And so you can be sitting at the office going, oh, okay, mom just opened the front door. Why is that? Then if you have a camera, you can turn your camera on and see, okay, what is she doing? Is this all creepy? Maybe. There's the pros and cons to all of it. How much do we want to be monitored and how much do we want to stay safe? And what does that take? So I'm not saying you should, you shouldn't, but there are options is what I'm all about. Also too, there's also the motion sensors. So when monitoring, a lot of people will try and do the motion sensors because then you get that alert, oh, mom just walked into the hallway. So if it's a hallway and then the front door, you have that time to divert and redo. So those are those, yes.
Those Ring doorbells are really good for just having on the front of your house anyway, because, for example, my wife can't physically open the front door, but if someone comes to the front door, then she can communicate with them without putting herself at risk.
No, that is a really, really great example. And one of the things that's always kind of like layering lines of defense or having different layers of everything. So you can do a lot with simple technology. And when I'm talking about smart door alarms and things of that nature, you're talking around $20. So it's very, very inexpensive. One of my favorites too is the smart door handles. So you change out your door handle, and when my phone gets in proximity of it, it unlocks the door. You can set that if your caregiver is there from 2 to 4, that code or that sensor is only good between 2 and 4 p.m. That caregiver resigns, quits, gets fired, then you can just erase that off of the list. And then the new caregiver gets a new code and hers is only good between 2 and 4 or 1 and 3, whatever it is. Also, what's nice is that I can sit at home and I can do the reverse. I can be in control of that lock. I can sit on my phone. You have the Ring doorbell. I see that my caregiver is approaching the front door from my bed. I can open up the door. The caregiver comes in, does my morning cares, leaves. I can lock the door behind. And so there's a lot of great things that can be done remotely. But as a caregiver who's living remotely, being able to have control of those locks, lights, people always ask about the stove. Unfortunately, there is not a good one for the stove, but I have had people strategically place an echo show like on top of the refrigerator or something that is across from the stove. And then you've got the visual on the stove to see if it's off or on. Yep. Yep. Exactly. No, but the camouflaging, you're right, because sometimes they want to unplug them. They want to, yeah, they don't want the cameras on them. So no, great points. Thank you for sharing them. The mini cameras are great, and there's so much you can do, and it's very simple technology. But to get even simpler, because I know I'm getting kind of here on time. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is, okay, mom doesn't want to be monitored. She doesn't want Wi-Fi in the house, but she wants to stay at home. You're not going to be there all the time. So what are some of the things you can do to make the home a little bit safer? I go to my favorite, I go to my baby, duct tape. Love the duct tape. There are so many practical applications. So for marking off the edges of the stairs so that the stairs don't look like a ramp to create home safety, taking on the rung at the edge of each step, marking it off so you can see where one stair begins and the other one ends. So you can get some proper placement and footing. This is great in a garage. Garage stairs, whether, they're cement, the floor is cement, our lighting isn't always the greatest in our garages. Putting that on there can really help to be able to mark off where that is. Also, too, I'm going to jump subjects, but when I'm talking about the garage, they make all of these great little battery operated sticky lights nowadays. You don't need to hardwire them in. Battery life is long. And you would just put that above the step. And so when the person walks out, they can see where the light is, they're motion censored. They really help to create a good lighting in areas where you might not be able to, steps, on different hallways, and you don't have to hardwire anything in. So those are some of my favorites. I'm going to get back to tape, and then I'm going to go to lighting, because I have some other things to say about lighting. But my other favorite is glow in the dark tape. So for anybody who uses the mobility device, putting it on the cane walker so they can locate it easy at night, putting an X on the nightstand, and that's where they put their water glass so they can find their water glass so they don't knock it over in the middle of the night. Putting it on the Kleenex box, putting an X on the bathroom door if someone who's confused, dementia or at night due to medications or whatnot, they kind of have a little bit of confusion, putting it there to make that marker. I have seen family members that they're caring for kids or even adults. They'll take it and they'll make a trail for them to follow, either with the colored duct tape or with the glow in the dark. This is where we go. Also, too, if there's an area in the house, marking it off. You can't cross into the hot pink area. Cooking by the stove, if you have a child with autism or things of that nature, being able to mark that area off to prevent wandering in front of the door. Can't go into that area. Does it work for all? No, but it might work for some. There is also, too, the black hole theory, that if you put down a black rug, it looks like a hole. And for a person whose sensory system cognition might be compromised, they will not step onto it. So that prevents them from crossing to the door, crossing to the stove, different things of that nature. So just a quick thought process about that. Lot of great things you can do with duct tape, and it's cheap, it's easy, all of those things. But now getting back to lighting. If you are a caregiver working with someone who might have their sensory system compromised. Now, I'm not saying go into this person's house and rip out all of their light bulbs and replace them with LED lighting, but LED lights show off much less shadow. For a person who has dementia and things, they have a hard time processing shadows, and that can cause anxiousness, it can cause anxiety, and different things of that nature. It might not look like anxiety to you, but they might be constantly playing with the remote. I sit down, I get back up, I walk, I pace, I sit back down. Now I fumble, and I just can't settle in. A lot of times at night, we will bring down our lighting to make it calm, subdued. We want to relax. We want to just have that moment, and we're going to be calm. And that's when we all of a sudden see our loved one just can't settle in. We're just like, oh, here we go again. It's a nighttime. I don't get it. The nights are so rough. It might be lighting. We have a hard time processing the shadows and the flickers from the TV. Cars driving by, if the living room is on a busy street. And so we bring down that lighting. Now all of a sudden you got the bright TV coming at you, or you got those headlights going through, and there's lots of shadow. That is what's taking our loved ones' anxiety and bringing it up. So keeping the lighting scheme, that's maybe why I chose to make this room look bright today, is to reduce that shadow and glare. Again, what works for one is not going to work for another. The other thing is TV at night. We always turn down the volume. I want to keep it quiet. I want to keep it quiet. But then I'm like, what did that person say? What did they say? Huh? I didn't catch that. What? Turn the volume up. Because then you can relax, because you're not working. You're not trying to hear. You're not trying so hard. You're able just to be there. You're just, you catch it. Some people try to put on closed captioning. Depending upon the person, that can be good and bad. If they're having a hard time reading all of that, or that flicker, that can be another hard thing. Turn up the volume. They also make really great speakers you can put on with your TVs, because all the speakers are now, if you ever notice, are on the backs of the TVs. We mount those TVs on the wall. We put them into a corner. Now that sound really, really muffled. Hook up a portable speaker, and that can really help as well. And it's amazing how a person can just relax because they're not working as hard and they can concentrate. So kind of some thought processes on that. Again, I cannot stress the lighting. Lighting is one of the biggest reasons why we have falls in the home. And so if we can't be there at night, because we're gonna be that, we're a remote caregiver, really increase that lighting, that can really help. Another thing that is very simple. How many of you are familiar with the power of red? So several studies have been done with through John Hopkins, Minnesota University, and there's one other one that I cannot think of. When we see red, the color red, and because it's a happy color, apparently, it makes endorphins go off in our brain. When endorphins go off in our brain, we are happy and we eat 20% more food. And so if we eat off of a green or blue plate because the food looks discolored, we will eat 20% less food. So if your loved one, you're trying to get them to eat more, take in that calories, that caloric intake, eat off of a red plate. This is why I say at Christmas time, I gain my 10 pounds because we're all eating off of those plastic red plates. And I mean, yes, the food is tasty, but it's the red plate. So we should all eat off of green plates at Christmas. So, um, so it really can be a big help. A small little thing, go out there, get the red plate and see if that works, because a lot of times we are trying to increase or decrease that caloric intake. My other thing is keep it light. A lot of times we have reduced muscle strength, grip strength in the person that we're caring for. And you give a person a coffee mug. Coffee mugs can be pretty heavy. Now you add 16 ounces of liquid in there. Now you've got a pretty hard thing, and now we're walking. And now because I can't keep it steady, now I spill it on the floor. Now I got a slick spot, and now I have a fall. Camping wear. Camping wear is meant to take heat. You can get it where it's microwavable. I don't know who would have a microwave out in the woods, but they do make some that is microwavable, and it is light. It is airy, still has the handles on it, and that can really help to reduce dropping it, smashing, all of those things. I mean, when you think of like a Corel plate, I mean, those aren't that heavy, but when those drop, it is a shattering mess. But camping wear can be very light, easy to carry, and you're not taking that task away from that person. You're just getting them to do it in a safer way. Also, too, if you take your tape, mark off the edge of the counter, now they've got a good guide on getting that over. Because if you have depth perception, it's not going to fall onto the floor. And again, as remote caregivers, we're trying to reduce all those house little accidents. And this is one. We had a lady who she dropped her glass bowl onto the floor, depth perception, stepped right on it, 15 stitches in the bottom of her foot. Well, at 86, trying to heal a cut on the bottom of the foot. Oh, yes, yes. Is that the smart one? Yeah. So what is your name? Cameron just found the Wallflower 3-wire stove smart plug. What website did you find that one on? Okay. Okay, yeah.
You can't shut them off. They message you and say, we know that usually your stove's on for an hour. But we noticed it's been on for an hour and a half. Is everything okay? And so it's designed to let you know if you left your stove on and left your house or something. But they can also be used to monitor if someone left the stove on in their home.
I love it, because just taking, again, those practical things and just making it a different event.
The Wallflower 3-wire stove smart plug.
And is that by TEP? By TEP. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's always new things coming out. So this is what I love. I love to hear and find out new things. Okay. One of the next things I'm going to get into really quick here, and maybe you guys all know about this. So just, if you do, just let me know. How many of you are familiar with, on your smartphone, whether you have an Android or Apple phone, are familiar with the Heart app or the Health app and Emergency Contact? One of the best things I think it is one of the coolest things. So I'm going to turn my phone off. And do I have someone who's willing to be a demonstration? Anybody want to be a demonstration? So try, and I got to do this so that my face doesn't show up because I have Face ID. So try to get into my phone and try again. Okay, now show them that screen. On that screen, do you see emergency down at the bottom? Okay, push emergency. And now show it, if you wouldn't mind, show it to everybody. Down here in the corner, it says medical ID. Now push that. And what that does, now I can take it. Yeah, it'll take you to a listing of medical ID, and it'll take you to, here it says I have high blood pressure. I also have post-concussion syndrome. I wear contacts. It does not give my correct weight, but you know, whose does? I would, yeah. I mean, if I want to think I'm 120 pounds, no. But it also tells the medications I take, all of that. What is happening is with emergency personnel, they are being trained to go into people's phones like this. Now, if you tried to get into the rest of my phone, can you get into it? No. So you can't get into the rest. So it's not a way that someone can hack into your phone or anything, but you can have on there doctor's information. You can have prescriptions, any of those things that are going to be pertinent in an emergency when 911 shows up and they don't know your medical history. It gives on there your emergency contact. So it lists, I'm trying to do this without it seeing my face. It lists my husband and his phone number as my emergency contact. It also has my sister as my second emergency contact. You can list as many emergency contacts as you would like. It is just a great way. You can also put on here that you are a caregiver. So let's say you're running to the store and unfortunately you get in a car accident, you trip and fall on the grocery store, you have a medical emergency, then they know that you are a caregiver to someone at home and that person doesn't go unattended for a period of time. And so, that's okay. It's, if you go into the health app, it's, if you have Apple, now I gotta get into my phone. I lost myself. Oh, it's this app that's automatically on your phone. You might, if you go into the App Store and just type in health, yeah, it'd be there. So a lot of times we might have removed this app from our phone because we didn't think it was pertinent, that it didn't have a point, because I probably did before I learned about this. But it's just the health app, and it's just a really great way to help, get that information if we can't be there. So that way, all of the medications, all of that information. So that way, if you're on blood thinners or some of those different products and you've got 911 there and you're bleeding, they can give you the proper medications in those moments because they know what you're taking, or they can't give you something in reverse that's going to counteract with something else you're already taking. So it's one of those I highly encourage you to look into and use. Now, just really, I know we got a little bit of time here yet. One of my other things that I think is great is when I said before, a piece of paper can be assistive technology. Just making picture sheets and guides to help somebody complete a task. I had a gentleman who his comfort was shaving. He probably shaved, honestly, 16, 18 times a day. Whenever he felt anxious or stressed, he shaved. The only problem was he forgot the step of putting shaving cream on his face. And he would just take that and his face was raw. And so we put the little sheet guide to follow step by step. It was enough of a reminder that he would complete that step, put the shaving cream on, and away he went. And it can be everything from hand washing. It can be any of those small little details that you want to help someone complete by themselves to be able to, be successful. One of the other things too is when I think about piece of paper and things is recipes. Mom gets coffee. Coffee's not really a recipe, but might be mixing up, different things when she's measuring things. Mom, just use the red scoop. Mom, it's 2 of the purple. It's 1 of the orange. Doing the coloring measuring cups can really help complete that task and really sit there and with, very little marking off, color code a recipe. So if it's her favorite cookie recipe, color code it and write it out as 2 scoops of the red, 1 of the orange, 2 of the blue. Can really help keep those independence and things. Also, too, I know a lot of different states have these. If you go to your DHS websites, there are emergency toolkits, and I really sit there and, we just watched some horrific weather go through Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, all of those states. And a lot of times for a person with a disability, we don't have sometimes the plan. What would we do if the power went out and couldn't charge your mobility device, or the CPAP machine won't work, or, feeding tubes, whatever it may be. And so these can help you walk through all the different scenarios and help you plan for what it may be. And you can go through your checklist and really think diligently about what needs to happen. Medications, talking with your pharmacies and things and seeing if you can get an extra set, a week's worth, different things of that nature. It can really make a huge difference. Or when, they talk about plans coming up, what can we do? My one other thing is, if anybody here works with young adults and they're living independently in an apartment, or you're trying to create that independence with them. One of the best apps that I have found, and it's on my iPad, is, and I gotta remember, it's got a silly name to it, and I want to say it right. Got Milk. It's Got Milk. And Got Milk is a great one where you create a task list. And as they complete that task, they check mark it off. You get the text message at work that they took their medication, that they got dressed, that they brushed their teeth, that they did those different things. You can put videos. So if you're doing stories, and you want to do like a social story with them, or things that shows them how the steps of brushing the teeth or washing hands or setting the table, you can put that all in there. Can Plan is another one that's kind of like that, but you don't get the text message. So I Got Milk is probably one of my favorite ones, and it looks like a cow. At first you're kind of like, what is this? But those are some of the good apps. Another one, how many of you are familiar with Goalie? Goalie is, and this again, I mean, it can be used with adults, but it was the intent was for kids, for pediatrics, but on the goalie, and of course, this was my thing. I didn't think I'd get to this one, and it's not charged, of course. But what happens is they get like a tablet. It comes up throughout the day, all of the different things they have to do, their reminders, their prompts, all of that. Again, you can upload your own videos of you doing the activity and things. It is a monthly fee, but then the caregiver gets the text message again as they complete all of the tasks and things. It can really help for someone to stay on that path. It's also great reminders because you can set them up to pay the bill, pay your credit card bill, pay your water bill, pay your whatever it may be, rent is due, all of those different things. You can track their savings account, all of those different things on these apps you can do to help keep them independent and so that they don't need someone there 24 hours. It's just setting them up. But like I say, Can Plan I like, the milk one, and Goalie has a really, really good, it's a good program. The thing of it is though, you need a monthly subscription for it. A lot of though, in our state, if you're on state waiver programs for Medicaid, they will cover the fee. So that's something to check into as well. So I rapid fired a bunch of things at you. We are almost out of time. Is there any questions, anything? Always happy to help, whatever, but thank you. Safe travels to all of you as you return back. Have a great rest of the conference for the half a day and have a good one. Thank you. Got to medications. I never even got to medications. I sit here and I look at all the stuff that I didn't even talk about.
What's the problem with relocation?
What is it for? So medications are, so there are a lot of different devices out there for medications. Everything from the talking med alarms where you record your own message and words. So it's your own voice to your loved one. Then they make the ones where you get a text message when the weight of the medications come off. That's right through Amazon. It's not monitored. It's just you set it up. It's just got to be connected to Wi-Fi. But once the weight comes off, then you know that they came out. Now, did they go to the mouth?
That's where the camera.
Yes. That's where a lot of that comes into play. And so this particular one is also locked, so they can't get into it. And then you can do the hard cover so they can't even see them, and all they get is just what's there. Yep, right time at the right amount. Yes. Those are Tweedle muffs. So when a person is feeling anxious and things, inside of them are all types of things to grab onto. So if you have someone that's picking at scabs or sores, or in the car, they're playing with the window all the time, or grabbing things as they're walking through hallways and whatnot, doctor's offices, a Tweedle muff. Yep. And if you look up Tweedle muff, patterns, you'll find them on the internet, but basically it's just a sweater sleeve. Yeah,
You can
Yeah.
make them out of socks.
yeah.
Well, I like the crochet, so that would be also a little bit pretty.
Those-
Yeah.
Those solid tops are really good too. If you like, if you have one of those home health services
Mm.
person, and so you don't have the same caregiver every
Yes.
time. You
Yes,
can't see what the medication.
yeah,
Somebody likes
So-
to take them away.
yeah, well, that's a really good
That's the-
point.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so sad and scary.
Well, like I said, we've been having those two cameras one night, and I guess it can get a little pricey, even if you have a small one.
Yep,
Because those are the least expensive.
yep,
One that's bigger, like they see, it's like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Let's tell the big one, but you still have that.
yep, yep. No, I agree. Another one of my favorite little simple things is,
And the reason why they don't sell those smart plugs for those ovens the other way, like they do for the small ones, is because people tend to just use them to turn their oven on and off, and that's really also dangerous.
yeah. So the talking tiles, of course, my batteries are done. So you just simply record, you press down, you record the message, and then it's there. And so, George, your meal is in the refrigerator. George, I went to Betty Lou's house, be home at 5 o'clock. George, take your meds at 3 o'clock. George, let the dog out. So apparently George has to do a lot of things.
Yes.
I was trying to think if any of them go, but they make them in all different, I got these at Walmart. They make all different, yeah.
You
this-
can use those to train your dog so that when they go to the back door,
Yeah.
then they say, I need to go out, I need to go out.
Oh,
That would be great.
Yeah.
oh,
I've seen that.
oh, that is not mine. Oh, wow. I'll let, if somebody's looking for it though, I'll let them know. Oh, absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, yes.
I gotta-
Please. Did I give you Stacy or did I give you Calvin?
You say so.
Okay, good. I just, all of a sudden I saw Calvin's mixed in. Oh, really?
Yes, yes. There.
Oh my gosh, that's where I was born and raised.
In Appleton.
Yep, yep. I went to Fox Valley Lutheran, so,
Okay.
yep.
My kids went to the public school with Johnson.
Oh, yeah, on the east side.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Oh, totally familiar.
I live in, that's something.
Yeah,
I was just gonna bring some of that stuff.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
About a couple years ago, and my mother was there, in her apartment. We got an old device, it was an old device that went on the TV,
Okay.
okay? When there was a problem, or when we wanted to get a hold to her,
Uh-huh.
the TV would stop because she couldn't get it back on the cable station. We got that, and here's what happened. She got, EMT had to come in one time. And we were able to talk to the EMT people through the TV to explain what medication she's on. You were, when I came in, you were talking about diabetes and the
Yes.
sliding, but we could actually talk to the EMT people right there, and they were amazed. My son had gotten it.
I'm gonna have to look into see if there is an equivalent to that nowadays, because that sounds amazing.
It was worth, I mean, and my son found it and it went on the TV because my mother always had a hard time getting back to the station.
Yes.
So it would just stop the TV. We would talk to her. And, you know, when the time came and there was an emergency, which there was, we were able to explain everything that goes on. Also, we put an emergency thing on the refrigerator.
Yep, the file of life.
Is that what it's called?
Yep,
I
the
thought
red
a
file of life.
name, doctor, you know, our name. Hi.
It's a Tweedlemuff. So for someone who's got anxious, busy hands inside, there's all kinds of stuff as you're finding out to grab onto to help keep your hands busy. Yes.
Oh, that's
If you'd like, you can take this one. There you go. It is yours.
I just, you wanted to share because we
Yes.
were 7 hours away.
Yes. If you would think of what the name of that device is,
I'll
if you
do-
wouldn't mind emailing me, that would be
And I didn't put on
phenomenal.
my bracelet because I could have given you my contact. My son is technology, but I think what helps one helps all because
Yep,
being 7 hours away, how do you adjust?
yeah. It is.
And I was her only child.
Yeah.
So
that was like, you know, I mean, my mom does fine now. But it's like, it's still spooky for me to have her be, you know, only 45 minutes away, or when she goes down to Florida, I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah,
On the TV, so she doesn't have to change the station. She
wow.
doesn't have to do that. We could check on her, Mama, what are you doing? We don't hear you, we don't see you, you know?
Perfect.
And cause she had gotten so where she concealed that she couldn't get it back on the channel by calling the cable
Ah.
company and paying $50 each time to
Wow.
have it.
Wow, yeah,
But
Yeah.
I think you have done great with this, but
you.
I will, yeah, I
thank
will
you.
get that information.
No, I appreciate it, thank you. From one apple tonight to another.
Donaldson, and wait a minute, I have.
Oh, over at Appleton East, West. James Madison. It looks like Jefferson. Yes, 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 over, yeah, kind of over here's Park maybe.
Jack's Pizza. And so you know, I'm telling you the truth. I couldn't pull that one out of the hat. Whether I'm got- Like a silly or not.
It's not, it's not.
So I know I'm telling you the truth. Jack's Pizza and little.
Yeah, and it's still there.
Well, when you're choosing John, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, oh, wow. Oh, how interesting. So, very cool. Well, thank you.
This one's different, they're all a little.
Yeah. I love it. This actually might be more close to it, but well, I don't know. This is getting big, all of this. This part, I don't, well, might be more close to it, but I saw it done like very, very close.
Yeah.
If you, I don't know what the so you were still coming up that, like, and then crochet patterns and then.
They are. Well, what, so, is that like
I mean, you do great work in here.
Welcome. Did you have a good time at the dance last night? Yeah. That is awesome. How late did you guys dance till last night?
I waited till like. 11-ish.
Oh, wow, very fun.
I feel like it started dying down a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it gets to be a long day.
Yeah, and I also. Well, I would take a shower.
Are you from ILR? Yes. Yes, I'm Stacy from Options.
Yeah, I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you've been there for a minute and I.
Yeah. Ah,
I just couldn't pick up the-
yeah, if you'd like, I can give you the pattern. So inside, there's all, yep, that's what it's all about. Stuff for them to be able to grab onto, keep their busy hands busy. Yeah.
My daughter was at it. And I think, well, we're here. So.
Let's take that one with you.
I can make some.
Okay, well, here, let me give you.
Yeah, I have yarn here.
So let me.
I did my girlfriend bring it because I forgot mine. But.
Do you knit or crochet?
Crochet,
Crochet?
yeah.
The
I don't-
patterns,
it's not a stitch, so.
the pattern's on here for both of them, the link right there.
Okay,
But, basically all it is a sweater sleeve.
right.
I mean,
Which is a tube, I guess.
Yep. yep,
And tiny things in there.
Yeah, buttons, zippers.
yeah, you name it.
Yeah, take pictures of the set of them.
I do think like the fuzzy yarns really help with, yeah, and sensory, but yet some people really shy away. They say it's too tickly.
Yeah,
Oh, you do that?
whereas like this, I use this. This is soft enough. but
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
rubbing the eyelash stuff.
yes, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they really do. Oh, that's totally fine. You can shove it all in the TV remote can go in there too. This one can go in there. Thank you. So hopefully we'll see you around. Is there anybody else here from your center?
Yeah, our EP Sarah,
Oh, okay, okay.
daughter is going to be.
Oh, fun. Awesome.
Always there. Like, yeah, like you said, April, like, has it. Yeah, no, me too, that's why I was wondering, okay. It feels 11, so a little younger, but like, well, on his way. I want to say it's 18 to 30. Oh, okay, so it's more young adult, so then, okay, I get what transitional youth. I guess what I feel would be a different scripture. Okay, cause yeah, my kid, like, he's definitely an advocate, but he wouldn't have the ability yet to do like 2-3 days, you know what I'm saying? We're not there yet. Oh, we just said everything's in there. Yeah, okay. Great. Probably have a system.
I did too, but I've already like, yeah. Not happening the way it should be. Petra and other Petra up.
You go to the, y'all? I'm glad that I went to the one. I won a book, you guys. I won a book. I won a book.
How'd you win a book?
Well, so the question was who's been at their place the longest? So I raised my hand. I was like, well, what do you consider being there? Is it employment? What other? We'll allow that. And so it was me, and so I won this.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really excited,
Okay.
but I took away some really good ideas. They do story times at like preschools with these books, you guys.
Really?
They'd hit all the head starts in their county, well, their area, which would definitely be almost impossible for us, but like, we'll start. So I got the book lists and everything.
I was just gonna ask you.
Uh-huh. And it's out
Wow.
of Michigan, so I got their content information. They'll have video on YouTube that they'll have to.
Oh.
That they created. I'm really excited.
That is exciting.
Well, not starting off. Hello.
Are you next in here?
No, I'm not sure who's next.
What?
Not,
Okay.
not us three.
Okay.
Plastic
Oh.
things.
Oh, thirsty. Yeah. That's basically. Caption and then, if someone comes looking for a phone, the person who set up the closed captioning grabbed somebody's phone by mistake. So she's running around with a blue phone. So, yeah, yeah, so she's got somebody's blue phone. Yes.
Hopefully someone starts to call it.
One whole thing. And that was important to me, before we have on the web. Some people need to get. So the aspect, like, I don't know. I don't know. Well, if they do it, then I have to register it. Like, up for online years. And I was like, and so I have to get involved with somebody to put the money. Deal with all that stuff, it's like, you think I know it? And we complimented. So, we and family was doing other stuff, like run down. They thought it was easy. Yes, they told me, and they might not have, he did it, and they are, he did that, and they didn't even go, that's the only. So I told her to go off of this. I hate to do it. But it never can go someone all the way, pretty much. You know,
Hello, captioner, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, there was some change in rooms, and this is going to be Disability Voices, how to launch a successful podcast. We don't have our speaker here, but hopefully they will be here on time. But if you could just scroll forward and put in the title, Disability Voices, how to launch a successful podcast.
Okay. Let me ask you for the other one that was supposed to be importance of individualized reentry plans. Can you tell me what room that's going to be in?
Okay, the rooms weren't changed, but where people
Oh.
are logging on has changed. Because there was, wait a minute, am I in the wrong room?
Yeah, you're in the wrong room.
So this is the importance. of-
Yeah.
Okay, I messed up. Sorry, you have the right
Okay.
one. Two of these. guys.
No problem.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Two of these links got switched.
That's why I was asking Brown, because they're both Browns.
Oh, B Brown? You mean the the Zoom?
No, the speaker.
Oh, I have no idea.
So that was all last week. That's a question during or after or.
I prefer after, but if someone has a pressing question that they need answered out, then that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, because I'll run the mic for
Of
you.
course, of course.
So
I put my
which
computer,
way do you like it? To talk or will that be good?
I'm more used to walking, but I'll sit today. I'm tired today.
Okay.
I had to work 2 miles from the hotel just to get this.
That's actually,
Chicago Marathon blocked everything off of me, everything.
okay. So I'll keep this so that when anybody raises their hand, as long as you nod for them to do it.
Gotcha.
I will.
I have my own computer, so I'm like, how you want to work this?
So presentation go on this one,
Mhm.
and then closed captions going on this
No,
one.
that's
So yours could go right here.
Okay, that's perfect.
And that is or anything.
I know. Just a link to the screen. That's it.
What about, have sound on the presentation?
No, I was contemplating doing a video, but unfortunately, the video that I was going to show doesn't have closed captioning on it.
Gotcha.
So I don't want to inconvenience anyone. But you tech guy.
Battery, you plug this guy in.
Nah, full charge.
Last group had it like this, you didn't have any slides, that might be bright enough.
No, I have slides.
No, you want me to, bright lights on?
No, that's fine. No, sir. I'm going right from the computer.
Taking this thing out. It says, if you want to use it for a pointer, you can't.
No pom poms. Oh. Like that. Everyone hear me okay? Because usually my voice carries kind of well without a microphone. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Perfect. I'm waiting for my eight. You ready? This is better for everyone. Perfect. Okay. I might interrupt the room next door, but it's okay. So first off, good afternoon. I definitely appreciate you guys coming and listening to this initiative that we have going on at ADA about reentry and individualized reentry programs. So my name is Sharif Brown. I am a African-American male, bald head, full beard. Can't tell, but I'm 6'6", 315 pounds. So if you see me standing up, you will recognize how tall I am. But let's get this started. So the name of my program is called ADA Reentry Program, Justice, Release, Reentry, and Reintegration. On the sign, it is the ADA, which stands for Alliance of Disability Advocates. That is our sign and our logo. So the name of the program is called the Alliance of Disability Advocates Reentry Program. The picture in the slide is me with another one of my wheelchair-bound consumers. He's wearing all brown, and he's actually signing his lease to move into a more suitable housing situation after being in a hotel for about 9 months. So who is ADA? So essentially what we are a Center for Independent Living. And for those who don't know, yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That map is of North Carolina, and the colors that you see are the counties that are covered by the different sills in North Carolina. And as you can see, there are more white spots than colored spots. So there are a lot of counties that are in North Carolina that are not covered by a Center for Independent Living, unfortunately. So, like I said, we are a Center for Independent Living, and that is a federally funded organization that specializes in giving free services and resources to individuals who have any disability, the elderly, and of course, veterans. Alliance of Disability Advocates has a catchment area of 8 counties. So we're talking Wake, Durham, Johnson, Orange, Franklin, Wilson, Pitt, and Beaufort counties. Requirements of a CIL or a Center for Independent Living. In that picture is a certain group of members of the team. It's kind of an old picture, but that is when we actually received our Community Impact Award from North Carolina. So in order to be a Center for Independent Living, there are certain requirements and regulations that must be followed. 51% of the staff must have a disability. 51% of the board of directors must have a disability. All programs and services are consumer or client controlled. The Alliance of Disability Advocates does not require any medical documentation or proof of having a disability in order for consumers or clients to obtain services or resources. The consumer or client must self-identify with having a disability, but are not required to divulge the nature of the disability if they choose not to. So there are 5 core services that CILs are mandated to provide, and this is for any CIL. So the first one is information and referral services, and this is provided in an accessible format to all individuals who contact ADA-NC. We must provide independent living skills training, peer support, which also includes cross-disability peer support, individual and systems advocacy, and transitional services, both youth and transitions from institution and diversion, which is keeping consumers out of a facility-based care. Continuing with the 5 core services, just more a little bit in depth. Information and referrals. Anyone can call ADA and ask for information or a resource for any disability-related issue. Alliance of Disability Advocates has obtained a voluminous list of resources from the work that we do around the state. If Alliance of Disability Advocates cannot perform the service or resource requested, we will provide a referral to another agency that we know is viable and reliable to assist our consumers or our clients. Continuation of the 5 core services. In this photo is actually a picture of 2 staff that were working with the youth. And that's a picture of their handprints that they made that we had hanging up in the office. So peer support, Alliance of Disability Advocates is able to offer peer support, including cross-disability peer support. ADA is available to offer this service as 51% of the staff have a disability, some with multiple disabilities. Independent living skills training. This service is provided to either assist with maintaining a consumer's or client's independence or assist with increasing their independence. Trainings include shopping, budgeting, home maintenance, laundry, cooking, travel training, which is learning how to use the fixed route system, employment services, which can include resume writing, cover letter writing, mock job interviews, etc. The list of the independent skills training is possibly endless. That does not include the removing of any kind of clothing. That we do not do. So to continue the 5 core services, at the bottom there is a consumer in a wheelchair on a rock overlooking what looks like a foggy background. So system advocacy seeks to engage local, state, and national leaders in an ongoing dialogue regarding public policy as it relates to citizens with disabilities, issues such as accessibility, public accommodations, and transportation are significant in promoting full inclusion in every aspect of community life. ADA-NC promotes self-determination as a component of advocacy and supports employment and voting as important self-directed steps along a path of greater independence. ADA-NC offers education to assist individuals with disabilities in understanding their rights and responsibilities as members of their community. Individual advocacy skills shows people with disabilities to become proficient in their efforts to increase their access to the services and programs they desire in the community they choose. ADA-NC helps each individual develop effective communication skills so that they gain the necessary support services to accomplish their personal goals. This is accomplished by a community inclusion specialist working directly with a consumer. Now we're going to get into the institutional side. ADA-NC services to individuals with disabilities to assist with transitioning from an institution such as a rehab hospital, nursing home, adult care home, or a correctional facility to a community setting. Staff work with a transitioning individual to identify their goals for independent living and help provide the services and supports necessary to move from an institutionalized setting into the community. Institutional diversion. ADA-NC provides services and supports to those at risk of entering or returning to an institution so they can stay in the community. The goal is to help the consumer identify at-risk factors that may cause them to go into or return to an institution. So this is why we do reentry. While many people with disabilities already face barriers to employment, stable housing, and other necessary elements of economic security, adding a criminal record into the mix can pose additional obstacles that make living with a disability an even greater challenge. Meanwhile, pre- and post-release programs for formerly incarcerated individuals often lack necessary accommodations and connections to community services, making them incapable of meeting the needs of participants with disabilities. So this is what we did during COVID, and there's a picture of an office with a bunch of glass doors on it. The current COVID-19 pandemic has forced many organizations and programs to adapt in order to remain successful and viable. ADA reentry is no different. During the COVID-19, ADA reentry assisted individuals that were fortunate enough for conditional release from prison. The main issue with the majority of these individuals were being released with no home plan, essentially making them homeless. With CARES funding, ADA reentry was able to support these individuals, addressing the immediate need of temporary housing and addressing the long-term need of permanent housing. Spectrum News in North Carolina actually did a story about ADA reentry. Now, I was planning on playing the video, but because it does not have closed captioning, I'm not going to inconvenience anyone with playing the video, but the link is there and it will also be at the end of the slideshow. So I implore every one of you to look at that story. It's a very amazing and touching story. So this is our expertise in reentry. And there's a picture of a gentleman crossing a bridge that has success under it. ADA has a history of providing reentry transitional services since 2016. The IRP model, which stands for Individualized Reentry Plan, was first tested at Butner Federal Compound, which is located in Butner, North Carolina. 212 individuals in Butner have benefited from ADA reentry IRP services, with many of the justice-involved individuals being released to the Triangle area. That's about a 3-county area that is in North Carolina, and continuing with their post-release reentry services. Of all the individuals, we're talking 212, enrolled in the ADA reentry program at Butner, only 2 have reoffended and returned in the first 2 years of release. That is a 98% success rate. It was this IRP model that attracted the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities to ADA. The North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities awarded ADA a 3-year grant to perform this model in 13 different state prisons in North Carolina in 2020. Under this grant, ADA reentry served 242 individuals specifically with IDD and had an 89% success rate of keeping those individuals out of prison for 3 years. ADA reentry now works with the Department of Mental Health to continue serving the IDD population, and we have also included the traumatic brain injury population as well. The importance of an individualized reentry plan. I added a photo of what looks like the American flag, but it's not. It's actually red prison bars gripped by black hands. ADA implements the independent living philosophy with all the services that we offer. This is vital with reentry as well. Transitioning back into community life from any incarceration is challenging. This challenge increases in difficulty exponentially as the time of incarceration increases and the availability or knowledge of resources decreases. It is not enough to simply offer blanket-style reentry services to individuals pending release from incarceration. The ratio of case managers / social workers in prisons to individuals being released requesting reentry services is an average of 45-1. Case managers / social workers in the prison system are overwhelmed with a large caseload, which often leads to blanket or generic information given to these individuals, which at times is usually outdated and may not apply or address the needs of the individual. Once an individual is released with no viable resources or positive supports, that individual will most likely reoffend and return to prison, which goes against the foundation of beliefs of ADA. So this is why reentry plans are so individualized, reentry plans are so successful. And I added a picture of an actual prison next to it. Despite the occasional success story of a former inmate building a successful life, research continues to show that as many as 75% of justice-involved individuals find themselves back in the criminal justice system within the first year. Successful performance management of reentry programs and other resources are critical to change those outcomes. At the end of the day, successful reentry is important for both individuals and communities. So this is how the whole individualized reentry plan process works. The IRP begins at the initial meeting with the justice-involved individual. Prior to COVID, ADA had the ability to meet face-to-face with our justice-involved consumers. ADA is still able to facilitate the IRP model During this pandemic, with the assistance of the Department of Public Safety, DPS, ADA recognizes that successful reentry does not start the day someone is released from prison or jail. The best outcomes occur when there are preparation and supports before, during, and after release. The most important facet of the IRP is listening to the individual when it comes to reentry, as far as what they think they need to be successful and not return to prison. This approach allows anxieties about reentry to be expressed. ADA will sit down with them, listen to their story, ask about their goals. Empowering individuals to make decisions in their reentry now gives them a voice, which is something they lost as soon as incarceration began. They are no longer a number or just another face during count. Empowering individuals shows that ADA is invested in their plan for success. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all, which is why ADA reentry offers a commitment to individualized reentry plans. So in practice, that might mean matching them with a therapeutic approach that appeals to their individual wants and needs. It can mean providing a range of educational and vocational opportunities, or it can mean integrating the client back with family to help create a more supportive and successful home environment. Programs and strategies that are built on this framework target resources to those offenders who are at a higher risk of reoffending and provides individualized services to address barriers that each consumer may be expecting or experiencing. Once the IRP is constructed, it is hand-delivered and discussed at the prison to facilitate and support our consumers with a successful reentry plan. So these are some of the resources that goes into the IRP. And I have two pictures there. One is a bag full of food, and the other is a housing situation. So we provide and connect our individuals to housing opportunities and or information, employment assistance, and or interview prep training. We have a program at the agency called Successful, where all of the suits from Men's Joseph A. Banks, all of the suits, the big wigs that make all the expensive suits, when they have their suit drives, we get their suits. And what we do is that we clean them and we press them and we give them out for free to our consumers so they have something to wear on any kind of a job interview. We link them to food pantry resources. We link them to benefits assistance and counseling, as the majority of the staff are certified benefits counseling. We have independent living skills training, which obviously is one of the 5 core services of the SIL. We have free individualized GED training and testing through Duke University. We can link them to behavioral and mental health resource information, peer recovery support services and mentoring, vital records, which might include birth certificates or social security cards. We can offer post-release wraparound services, SNAP, which is food stamp information, Medicaid applications, AA and or NA therapy resources. So all of this is inclusive in the IRP. Now recognize that every IRP will be different based upon what that particular individual is looking for. But these are the main ones that we seem to come into contact with that are requested by our consumers that are incarcerated. I'd like you to meet Adrian. Adrian, the picture, that's actually Adrian. He is an African-American male, bald head, glasses, full beard, shirt and tie. But this is Adrian. Adrian was raised in Baltimore, Maryland, in a violent urbanized area. Adrian was involved in illegal activity due to his environmental influences. He was convicted of a felony and sentenced to 20 years of incarceration. Adrian enrolled in ADA reentry pre-release and worked on his IRP for 16 months. So I went to see Adrian every Friday in prison for 16 months straight as I got him job ready and worked on his IRP with him. Adrian, when he was released, came and worked with ADA under me as a reentry specialist. Now, Adrian is the executive director of another SIL in North Carolina. So it just goes to show you that if you give someone the right resources and the right supports, fantastic things can happen if they do the right things with the resources. And me and him are still like this to this day. These are some outcomes and successes from the ADA reentry. Just want to reiterate the numbers that we're doing. And it's a picture of outcomes broken into puzzle pieces. So like I alluded to earlier, 212 individuals in Butner benefited from this IRP process, with only 2 reoffending. It's a 98% success rate. We had a grant from the North Carolina Council of Developmental Disabilities for a 3-year grant in 13 different state prisons with an 89% success rate for 242 individuals. And now we're working with DMH to include IDD and traumatic brain injury. Many of these pre-release consumers are now actively receiving post-release wraparound services and have obtained housing, sustainable employment, have applied and received state benefits, but most importantly, they have not reoffended. This is some of our collaborations, because obviously successful reentry is a multifaceted problem and no single program can address all the needs at every stage of the process. The range of challenges that lead to individuals returning to incarceration can include barriers to employment, housing, lack of family support, lack of problem-solving skills, unresolved emotional and mental health conditions, substance abuse recovery, isolation, and lack of community integration, and many others. So we're linked to the Dunn Rotary Club of North Carolina. They are one of the leading employment services in North Carolina. Like I alluded to earlier, we have a partnership with Duke University and their master's degree level students that offer free individualized virtual or in-person GED training and testing, in addition to the Duke occupational therapy students reviewing the data and the effectiveness of the program. We try to individualize our GED training because we recognize that in a classroom setting, those individuals that might not be as affluent educationally as others tend to fall to the back of the class and sometimes are afraid to ask questions, and they fall through the cracks. So we want our GED programs to be individualized, so it's just that individual and their tutor. So there's no outside influences, there's no distractions from anyone else, and they can focus on their tutoring sessions. We are also linked to the Women's Club of Charlotte that has joined in assisting and supporting the reentry suit closet by donating business casual women's clothing. We're linked to every single local reentry council in any one of the counties that we serve. So the only ones that they have are Wake, Durham, Franklin, Wilson, and Orange County. The other counties that we serve are now trying to construct their LRCs. So once they do, we will be involved with them. We are connected to federal and state probation and parole. We have received many referrals from them for some of their post-release individuals. We are connected to SWIT, which stands for Success While in Transition. This is another peer support program, an agency that was started by someone that is already justice involved. We're linked to the DD Council, like I alluded to earlier. Monarch and FTI 360 are 2 employment networks, and NC Fit is another peer support / community resource that was also started by somebody that's also justice involved. So these are some of our collaborations. As you can see, a lot of agencies are now looking to collaborate with us as they recognize that this program actually works. These are some stats on reentry and IDD, and there's a picture of a gentleman in complete distress with the gun tower behind him, trying to think about what he's going to do. But according to North Carolina Department of Public Services, only 55% of inmates with an intellectual disability diagnosis have an aftercare plan developed prior to them leaving prison. We assume that there are so many inmates with IDD who are not identified or diagnosed based upon this language. With a recidivism rate of 47% for all inmates within the first 13 months of release, the likelihood of successful transition to a productive community life for an incarcerated individual with IDD is extremely low without proper planning, training, and supports. These are just some numbers that I came across, which I found were absolutely disturbing when it comes to disabled individuals in the prison system. And on the left, there are two bar graphs. So 15% of US adults have identified with having a disability in comparison to 40% of the people in state prison that have identified with having a disability. Just goes to show you that there are so many individuals that are incarcerated that have a disability in prison. It almost triples the number of individuals in the United States that identify with having a disability, which strengthens the need for a program like this to be able to assist these individuals that are incarcerated. According to the Bureau of Justice of Statistics, people behind bars in state and federal prisons are nearly 3 times as likely to report having a disability as non-incarcerated population. Cognitive disabilities such as Down syndrome, autism, dementia, intellectual disabilities, and learning disorders are among the most commonly reported. Prison inmates are 4 times more likely to report a cognitive disability than the general population. People with mental health conditions comprise a large proportion of those behind bars as well. The Bureau of Justice Statistics reports that 1 in 5 prison inmates have a serious mental illness. And this is not just North Carolina, this is across the United States. These are some more statistics when it comes to the disabled population and the legal system. The percent of people in state prisons who have a disability, minimum 40%. Of those women in state prisons, 50% of them have a disability. The percent of people on probation or parole who have a disability, at least 23%. This one shocked me. The fraction of people killed by law enforcement who have a disability, 1/3 to 1/2, which is absolutely mind-blowing. The percent by which children with disabilities are more likely to be arrested in elementary school, 400%. Now that they have implemented the school to prison pipeline by allowing these SROs to come in and essentially turn that school now into a prison, these numbers are skyrocketing. The percent of people in the state prison with a history of taking a special education class, at least 25%. The percent of correctional institutions that do not offer any special education classes, 46%. So almost half of the state prisons don't offer any kind of special education when it comes to dealing with the population. The percent of court systems that list mental disability on their websites as a basis for a special accommodation is only 30%. That's the reason why there are so many people who are incarcerated with a disability, because society is failing them at every single turn, from elementary school to the court system, to the judicial system, to the prison system itself, to the resources in prison. They're failing dramatically. The disabled and police interaction, which we all know is on the rise. So in a study by the Ruderman Family Foundation, it's been estimated that the people with disabilities comprise of a staggering 1/3 to 1/2 killed by law enforcement. According to an investigation by the Washington Post, 1/4 of the individuals shot to death by police officers just 9 years ago were people with mental health conditions. Just reiterates the need for training when it comes to police and empathy on how to deal with the population and not drawing their guns and shooting first. Recognizing that this individual that is having a mental health crisis at the time isn't necessarily crazy or not listening to their orders, but there might be a disability that is preventing them from being able to follow these instructions. And unfortunately, for the majority of the police that lack this training, their first recourse, unfortunately, is to shoot and kill. makes sense. Now, this picture is a bundled up roll of $100 bills and handcuffs. And I put this up there because a lot of people, especially when I make presentations to legislation and things like that, they always want to talk about money and numbers and tax money and things like that. So, a little education for you. According to the 2022 report from NC Health, housing one incarcerated individual costs the state of North Carolina $50,000 a year. Programs like ADA reentry that have a proven record of having a high success rate in assisting with successful reentry continues to save the state money, which lowers taxes for all individuals living in North Carolina. So if you take that $50,000 a year and you multiply it by the 525 people that we put through reentry, that's how much money we save the state through this program. Now, I know you're thinking with these numbers and all the people that we assisted, the team has to be very, very big. It's not. It's just 3 of us. Obviously, that's me at the top. I'm the director of reentry. I'm also a certified travel training instructor. The gentleman below me is Wayne Bell. He is a reentry specialist, a community inclusion specialist, a certified peer support specialist. He's ex-military, ex-Navy. He has 20 years of working with the post office, which shows you how much patience he really has. And he's been doing in-reach to prison for over 20 years before I hired him. James Smith below him is a reentry specialist, a community inclusion specialist, a certified peer support specialist, and also he's a RAP facilitator. And he's also an individual with lived experience of being incarcerated. Preparing for the next chapter. That's actually a screenshot of the Spectrum news story that they did on the program. And that's actually me in the microtel talking to another individual about their housing situation. So next steps. I know that's a very, very long acronym at the top. Essentially what it stands for is North Carolina Department of Mental Health, Severe Mental Illness and Substance Use, IDD, Traumatic Brain Injury, and ADA. So we were able to partner with the North Carolina Department of Mental Health, Severe Mental Illness, Substance Use to continue this initiative for a grant for when the DD Council grant expired. This is a 2-year grant that will serve both IDD and traumatic brain injury justice-involved individuals in the counties of Wake, Durham, Johnson, Franklin, Orange, Pitt, Beaufort, and Wilson with pre-release and post-release services. Right now, we're currently in conversations to secure a $1.75 million grant to expand the program and offer state-of-the-art transitional funding for individuals that will include assistance with security deposits, rental assistance, clothes, cell phone, food, monthly bus passes to assist individuals with their transition and supporting those individuals already in society with a more holistic support approach. So in closing, whether focused on education, employment, transitional housing, substance abuse treatment, or building cognitive and emotional supports, ADA knows individualized reentry plans support successful reentry and reduce recidivism. Luckily, the increased awareness of evidence-based best practices can provide a strong foundation, and ADA believes we can assist in creating safe communities by successfully integrating formerly incarcerated individuals. Even though we are federally funded, we are also funded by donations, volunteer hours, and obviously any kind of grants. This is a list of the links that have every single presentation that I've done in accordance to this program. The Spectrum news story is at the top. Like I said, I would love to play it, but it does not have closed captioning, so I'm not going to inconvenience anyone. I've done 2 presentations with NAMI, which is a National Alliance on Mental Illness, about this program. I've done an IRLU presentation. I've done Adrian Boone's story, my first consumer. He has a YouTube story about how successful this program was for him and why he's as successful as he is right now. This is our ADA information. So that's our logo at the top. We're located on 3725 National Drive, Suite 105 in Raleigh. Our general number is 919-833-1117. My direct number is 919-591-0891. Our website is www.adanc.org. I implore all of you guys to go on there to see what other phenomenal services that the agency offers. I promise you, you will not break the website. Feel free to click on anything, meet the team. Some of the team is actually here. And our email is info@adanc.org. So I thank all you guys for listening to what we're doing. Absolutely. Any questions? Right about it.
Hello, my name is Mariah Stout. I'm from Asil in Helena, Montana. Me and my coworker do a Living Well in the Community class in our local Lewis and Clark County jail. And we have been getting hints from the local prison that they want us to do that class in the prison. What our problems are is that we can't individually meet with these individuals unless they put us on their visitors list. And you have to volunteer to go to the class. It's not a mandatory situation. So for me, I was a correctional officer, so I was from the other side of the fence. So they really have a hard time listening to what I have to say. But my coworker has no criminal record except for he was a Marine. So they identify with that struggle of being a Marine. So how do I get better into this prison and how do I get the individual care that they need?
Great question. First off, county jails and state prisons are completely different. Reason being because the turnover in county jails happens so fast. They can get in, bond out the next day and be gone and you'll never see them again. In state prison, you know that they're going to be there for whatever their time that they're looking at. So it's easier to be able to connect with that community because you know they're not going anywhere. Now, I tell everyone who is interested in wanting to do reentry, the first thing that you have to do is be completely transparent about what you can do and what you cannot do. Your difficulty is that because you're a CO or police, as they call you in jail, that they're not really going to be too receptive to what you have to say because when you were there, you were the enemy. But the only way you're going to be able to break that bridge is to actually have them instill trust in you. Now, getting access to them, one, obviously, yes, you have to be on the list. But I would say speak to whoever that sheriff is of that prison, or that jail, because it's not prison, completely different, and actually put up flyers about what you're trying to do. Because as you probably already know, word of mouth spreads faster in prison than it does anywhere else in the world. So putting up a flyer about what you're able to do and about what you want to do might gain a lot of attention. And letting them know that you have to be added to their visitation list in order to be able to get in to see them on a one-on-one basis. But you might want to speak to the sheriff and see if you can go in just to do a general presentation after you send the flyer in to gain that attention. And then you might be able to get a couple that might want to actually sign up right then and there. And then as you help them, that word will trickle down and then you'll get more people to actually be invested into what you're trying to do. Sure.
My name's Robbie and I work at a center in Denver. And first of all, you know, what you're doing is incredible.
Thank you.
My question is, so in Colorado, like our centers, when we do nursing home transitions, there's like an expedited process to get a Section 8 voucher and SNAP benefits and all those benefits. Through your program, is it similar where there is, instead of having to, you know, I'm sure as you know, the wait lists to get all of that stuff is just ridiculous. So I'm curious if through that program, it's similar where there are expedited processes to get all of those basic needs.
Great question. Obviously, there's always going to be a waiting list when it comes to resources. There's not necessarily an expedited process. The thing about why we're so successful is because we're meeting with individuals 6 months to a year before they're getting released. So we're able to try to get these resources lined up for them way before they're getting released. Because if you're waiting until someone gets out to try to gain these resources, you're never going to get in front of the 8 ball. You're going to be playing catch up every single time. So it's about managing your time, getting them as early as you possibly can, and then trying to line up these resources that they might have. Now, obviously, Section 8, that wait list can be 5, 10 years at times. I don't know if you ever heard of the Targeted Unit Program before. I don't know if you had that in Denver. In North Carolina, the Targeted Unit Program is a federally ran program to where landlords will hold apartments open specifically for people who are either receiving SSI or SSDI. And they get a humongous tax break to do that. Now, there are certain requirements, obviously. There's a wait list, not saying that there's not going to be one. But unlike Section 8, where you get one voucher and now you have to go apartment hunting to 35 different apartments, you can go on up to 8 waiting lists at a time. So obviously, numbers of probability are going to be in your favor the more number of lists that you go on. And in North Carolina, if you're getting at least $300 of SSI or SSDI, then your rent, if utilities are included, is only going to be 30% of whatever your SSI check is. And that comes out before you even receive your portion of the money. And as long as you continue to get SSI or SSDI, you don't move anyone in there that's not supposed to be there or catch a felony, you could potentially stay there forever. So, like I said, it's about just trying to gather those resources early and trying to be proactive instead of being reactive. But it's always going to be a waiting list when it comes to services. Unfortunately, housing is always going to be one of the main barriers when it comes to reentry. And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure Colorado, they're building just like North Carolina is, but a lot of those houses are not for people that can afford it or not for people that have a justice involved background, which is why we have to push legislation that actually care about the people that are coming out of prison. Yeah, absolutely.
So in North Carolina, in Kansas, where I am at, if a person goes into prison and they were already on Medicaid, they lose that Medicaid while they're in prison. They are not able to apply for Medicaid until they are out of prison. Does North Carolina function the same way?
No, because North Carolina Medicaid has just been expanded. So fortunately for us, if that individual is 30 to 60 days before their release and they actually have a home address, their Medicaid application can be sent to the office for evaluation prior to them getting released. So a lot of times these individuals will be released with their Medicaid already active, which then allows us to link them to an LME MCO, which would be able to assist them with their with their medication and doctor's appointments and their peer support side, because the LME MCO is a Medicaid built service. And because North Carolina poured, I think, $80 million into expanding their Medicaid, everybody's trying to grab the dollar. So these LME MCOs are chomping at the bit to try to help these individuals because they want to build Medicaid as much as they possibly can.
Just to comment on that, that is actually true that the person does lose their Medicaid in South Carolina. The last time I noticed, I know someone who has, it's a very complex case, and she did lose her Medicare
Mhm.
and all that stuff. And I'm just not going to comment on if that should have been deserved or not. It's a very sticky case.
I understand.
Thanks. My name's Barry. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I'm the executive director of our Center for Independent Living there. We run a program called Rent Well. Nikki does, and it's with transitional housing, RVs that have been relocated to a kind of a safe wraparound services location within the city. They're called Safe Rest Villages. They're building out 8 of them, and the Rent Well program gets them overcome their barriers to being favorable with the landlord. So it might be incarceration, it might be evictions, it might be a whole series of things. So I'm wondering with your program, a couple specific questions if I could, because we've been talking initially with some folks who are transitioning out of incarceration. We're looking to see whether we can expand our program in
Okay.
that direction. And it sounds like you guys are doing way more than we are imagining. So it's great to hear this. I'm wondering, can you talk to the point of, when you go in, let's say this 18 months before they're released and you're starting to work with them, how much of that work is individual one-on-one versus supplemented with maybe some group orientation or group teaching or a combination of that? And can you talk with the 3 of you, what are your caseloads like? Thank you.
Not a problem. Well, the first question is, when we go into a facility, it's just us and it's a one-on-one. So obviously we have to address certain barriers, especially if someone's been incarcerated for, let's say, 20 years, chances are they never saw a cell phone before or a smartphone. So technology has completely passed them by. So that's called an independent living skills barrier. So those are some things that we have to address. We have to train them on getting them caught up with technology. A lot of times, unfortunately, in North Carolina, individuals will be released to their county of conviction, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why send them back? Well, I know why, but I'm not going to give you the non-PC answer for that question. But they're sending them back to their county of conviction where they essentially court their felony so they can reoffend and come right back. Because as we all recognize, prison is $1 billion business. So we can go in there, we address these independent living skills barriers, whatever that might look like, but it's just the 3 of us. And so it's always going to be a one-on-one, face-to-face conversation. Because in a group setting, like I alluded to, especially like the GED training, in a group session, especially in prison, you're not going to be so forthright and honest about what you're looking for, what you need, because in prison, you have to have that tough bravado. You can't show that you have any weakness, because if you do, now you're going to be a victim of someone trying to take advantage of you. So it's easier to have those honest conversations when it's a one-on-one type situation, and it's easier to be able to obtain and gather the resources that we know that they need because they're being honest about their reentry program. And that's the difference. This is not me and my team going in and telling somebody that you need A, B, and C for your reentry. We're not doing that. That's the wrong way of doing this program. That's what the state does. They tell you, this is what you need, and this is what we have, and that's all we can do for you. So what we're doing is we're empowering people to take full control of their own reentry program. It's their program. We're just linking them to the resources that they're asking for. So that's why what's always has to be a one-on-one, because everybody's not going to need the same resources. You guys could be from the same county. You guys can be on the same charge. You can have the same ethnic background, the same economical background, the same social background. You guys are going to need 2 completely different things when it comes to your reentry. As far as caseloads go, we probably average between 35 to 40 per person. Now, understand that that's a mix of pre-release and post-release. Because if someone is pre-released, but they're not being released to our catchment area, once we create the IRP and hand deliver it to them and review it with them, if there's no longer a need for independent living skills training, we don't have to see them anymore after that, unless they want us to see them. Now, if there is an independent living skills barrier, then we have to continue to go in. If they're being released to our catchment area, then that's when we can really take that IRP that they constructed and walk them through that side of it with our supports. So when you hear number 35 to 45, it's not that bad, but for such a small team, we're changing a lot of lives in the right way.
So your goals with some of this new grants seem to be pretty aggressive in term. Do you have a plan to have to double or triple the number of your staff in order to not have waiting lists, assuming that you're working with all these different prisons that you profiled?
The great thing is that we don't have a waiting list at all. Believe it or not, there's no waiting list for us, and we get referrals almost every day from different prisons. We're looking to maybe add one more reentry specialist, but that's going to be the cap, that we're going to hire another staff, because we're going to really focus on more of the post-release side and really trying to help those individuals that we can actually physically have interactions with outside of prison, to help them with any kind of a barrier that they might be looking for. Most people don't recognize that the majority of the justice-involved population is one paycheck away from doing the wrong thing, from having to decide rent or food. So we're going to try to bridge that gap. Now, understand that this is not going to be a endless supply of surplus of money. We're not going to do that. We're going to cap it at a certain amount. So this way we have enough to spread to help everybody that we can, because we're not trying to have someone become dependent upon us. It's more of, we're going to assist you this time, but you're going to have to try to get on your feet with our supports or supports from any other community agency, but they're going to have to do what they have to do to maintain, but we'll be there to help them if we can.
I'm from Masil in Wisconsin, and I've been watching Colorado and all the amazing things they're doing with sending mental health workers in sometimes before the police. And specifically in the town that I live in, it's like 6,000, and there's one particular gentleman that I'm very concerned about because he walks the streets all the time. And I've actually went to the police and I've said, okay, there's obviously mental health issues. And I said, where is his services coming from? Because they suck. He walks around dirty, and he's just not getting what he needs. And I said, are we just gonna keep watching him? He's like, well, they're like, we get called out to where he lives a lot, because we have to calm things down. And I'm like, so are we just gonna keep doing that until we shoot him? Is that the plan? And so how do you get police, involved in this, where mental health workers should be sent out, and nobody in the town cares. I've been to many businesses and they're like, yeah, he comes in here and we have to kick him out. And I'm like, okay, does anybody in this town care about this person? So how do we get police involved in the mental health part of it?
To answer your question, do they really care? No, honestly. And unfortunately, that's how society deems that invisible disability, that they don't really understand or recognize it. And as a father of a son that has autism, it puts a lot of fear in my heart. Not just the fact that he has a disability, but also he's probably going to be about 6'7", an African-American male. So he's always going to pose a threat no matter what. So to answer your question, to try to get the police involved, it's going to obviously have to start at your legislation. You're going to have to go there first, because they're actually the ones that actually control the police. Now, you might find a sheriff that might care and might want to actually implement some kind of empathy training. Probably not, especially if you're in a small rural area. That's probably not going to happen as much. But legislation is where it's going to have to start. You're going to have to go to your congressman and you're going to have to levy for them to do something to help individuals that have mental health disorders and do some kind of empathy training. I know my agency, we did an empathy training for the transportation system, because a lot of people were riding the buses that had mental health, and the bus drivers did not know how to handle the population. And their first response was either throwing them off the bus or calling the police, which takes them to jail. So we gave them an empathy training on what to look for and how to handle the population the correct way. So you might want to try to find, if you have a SIL in your community, you might want to try to get them to speak to the sheriff or whoever is controlling the police in your town to try to get some kind of empathy training going. Because if not, then that guy that you're concerned about, as I showed you the numbers, most likely will probably be shot and killed by the police, unfortunately.
Yeah, my sheriff is not going to do that because there's actually a domestic abuse place and they had a Black Lives Matter sign up and he demanded they take it down or he was going to pull their $25,000 a year funding. And the director was a woman and she's like, we're not taking it down.
Good.
You can pull the funding.
Good.
So they pulled the funding and then the story went national and they made so much money for like domestic abuse. But I'm like, you're punishing women and men who are domestic abuse because we want to make sure Black people know that they're welcomed here.
It sounds like your sheriff is extremely racist.
He claims he's not, but yeah, he definitely is.
Most racist people don't think that they are.
Hi, my name is Sadie. I work
How are
at
you?
an independent living center in southwestern Wisconsin. I have two questions, kind of disparate, but whatever. One, do you have any convictions of inmates that you're unwilling or unable to work with? And then two, much like you talked about earlier, are you looking to do any kind of expansion or work within like juvenile justice systems?
Great question. So one, no, there is no felony that's going to eliminate someone from being enrolled into the program at all, whether that's a sexual offense, whether that's robbery, whether that's assault or a deadly weapon, regardless of whatever it looks like, because we recognize that that felony does not make or define that individual at all. You know, we're all one mistake away from being incarcerated. So there's no felony that will eliminate anyone from being enrolled into the reentry program at all. And I am looking into juvenile justice. I don't know in your jurisdiction, but in North Carolina, DPS controlled both adult and juvenile justice, but then they just split into two different entities. So now it's juvenile justice and adult corrections, but they're two completely separate agencies now. So I've been in conversations with the director of juvenile justice to try to do this there because the goal is to try to catch them early so they don't ever make it to state prisons or federal incarceration. So yes, we're looking at that.
The only other thing I was going to say is that, like, again, like you said, school, because yeah, it's definitely an issue, especially with kids that are have an IEP. Then have you looked at like involving like middle school, high school, even elementary school educators in that like conversation and how to like provide better supports for the students that are already in school that don't involve calling the police?
I've done presentations at a high school that has a high number of individuals that have disabilities, but unfortunately, that school to prison pipeline is so strong, and for the people who want that machine to work that way has been so effective of giving people just juvenile records and really enabling them and allowing them to just do the wrong things and then unfortunately ending up in the state prisons. But that's how the machine is built. So I'm always looking at trying to catch them as early as I possibly can, but that's always going to come up to whether the school allows us to go in and speak about this kind of initiative. And obviously we have to try to secure some kind of funding to do so. And most public schools don't have the funding to allow another program like this to come in because they're strapped for money, as we know. So right now, as far as that goes, our hands are tied. But like I said, I'm always looking at trying to catch them as early as we possibly can so they don't ever make it to state prison.
This is Robbie again, and just kind of a follow-up comment. So that program in Denver is the STAR program, which is the support team assisted response. And a lot of that program was actually developed and initiated through the community mental health providers to then go to local law enforcement and develop that partnership. Our centers for independent living have met with local law enforcement and educated them and told them about who we are and what Centers for Independent Living does. So it really was initiated from the community mental health, providers.
And that's usually where it starts, because the community will take care of its own. And so that's exactly the correct way to go about it.
I'm going to just add a comment to that. In Wyoming, they've just started having sensitivity training for mental health for law enforcement. And unfortunately, it took the killing of a young man who everyone in town knew, who the police officer that shot him had gone to high school with and knew exactly, because he didn't pull over fast enough in a small town. But because of the very active mother who got the mental health professionals involved and got the community involved, in the state, I mean, I'm not going to say problems are solved, but at least training is there and conversation is there, and that's what it takes as community. Your comment just made me think about that.
So my question goes to the aging and disability resource centers and that network across the country with SILs. Oregon was one of the 8 pilots in the initial grant, and I was on the Federal Learning Collaborative for that. That out of that came what they call person-centered planning, but also options counseling, and there's funding through the AAAs, the area agencies on aging. In some states, that money flows through to the Centers for Independent Living. What you're talking about with coming up with that plan also overlaps with ADRC goals under options counseling to get a person to the point where they know what they need. They've explored their options and resources so that when they have that plan and then they're transitioning out, whether it's back to your local community or it's another part of the state, they have a plan to take with them to look at resources. And it seems to me that there might be in some places an opportunity to make the case to the ADRC funding system, whether that's federally or locally. There's not a lot of federal dollars, but there might be in specific states to partner around, leveraging some of those funds. So I'm curious whether that's something in North Carolina you guys have or do, or if that hasn't come to all the states. So I'm just curious. Thanks.
I'm not aware of that in North Carolina, and that's not saying that I know everything about what's going on in North Carolina. I don't. ADA is pretty much self-contained. So fortunately, the government agencies that have given us these grants have given us enough money to where we don't have to look other places for funding as of right now. And it went from, when I started this in 2016, it went from me having to beg people for funding. Beg, I mean, hands and knees, please, 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 because we were draining Part C funding to do this program on the federal level. So from that to now the state throwing money at us, it feels really good. I'm not gonna lie, it feels good.
How do you support your consumers with housing when they have a sex offense?
That's always going to be the main barrier, especially in any kind of a city or a state. So what we've been fortunate enough to do is through our conversations with people, we've actually had individuals that are actually building houses on their land that are open to maybe accepting someone that has a sex offense. Or we found not halfway houses, transitional houses to where they accept sexual offenders as well. But as you know, sexual offense is the scarlet letter of felonies. And housing is always going to be an issue because society wants to protect the general population and not focus on the individual, which I get. But like I said, we've been fortunate enough to have conversations and partner with transitional housing to where they're allowing sex offenders to come in based upon obviously whatever rules and restrictions they have on their release. But that's always going to be the struggle. And I don't think that's ever really going to be solved unless society really acts like they care. And when it comes to that felony, they just don't, honestly.
The issue with that, with the offenders. So I'm a social worker and I work for a police department. And I work extremely a lot of people experiencing homelessness, and several of them who come to my city are on the registry. And some of them have been like, I did something when I was 18, that was a mistake, paid my price, and now I can't get housing. So I'm stuck in the situation where when I was younger, I made a mistake. I haven't done it in several years. And now I'm experiencing homelessness and have been chronically homeless because I cannot get housing. So to speak to that, yes, and I can see, I've seen it a lot. And I wish there was a better answer to that, because it's almost like saying you have no value because of a mistake you made, that you don't deserve housing, you don't deserve to be housed, you just deserve to be out on the streets. And I think it's a message that we leave with people that really I struggle with personally in my professional career.
No, you're absolutely correct. Unfortunately, when it comes to state prison, for people who are on the registry, their plan is wear this ankle monitor and go sleep under an overpass. And that's their plan for them. They release them completely homeless with no resources. And, you know, if I have to decide on being homeless and starving or going back into an incarcerated state, unfortunately, most will elect to go back to prison because you have your 3 hots in a cot. And that just goes to show you how messed up the system is, to where you have to go to prison for security. And that is an oxymoron. But that's how society is right now. But now you know why I'm so passionate about what I do. Any more questions? Well, I thank everyone. Appreciate you guys.
If I could just remind you to please show that appreciation that you have for him by going online through the app, through your schedule, and you can, through that link, do an evaluation of this session. He will get that information back, and do it for all the sessions that you went to. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My sister definitely would be classified as a delinquent juvenile.
Well, don't say that. I mean, I know how the classification goes.
Best way as possible.
Of course, I get that.
You need to learn stuff.
I get that.
And just because you want it that way doesn't mean you can do it
Nope,
legally.
that is true.
A lot of stuff.
That is true. So what these are our rat cards. Feel free to take as many of those as you want to.
Mm-hmm. Me and my grandma both looking at stuff like this.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sure, absolutely. Get my business card.
We're in that like early stages of trying to
Mhm.
put a reentry program together, but I mean, so much of your information is just like, we haven't even got to.
And that's great, because we're also doing is that we're working on with the state to standardize the program. So essentially, we're putting everything in a binder about how to run the program if you actually want to start it. So we should have that probably done by December. 'Cause we're right at the end of that. So once we get that, I'll have no problem sending that to you.
I'll stay in touch because
That's fine. Shoot me an email, say, hey, I met you at the conference, and you know why? Because what I didn't tell everybody, for me, it's personal. I have a brother that did 20 years of incarceration and caught in that revolving door of coming out reoffending. He's been in and out of prison since he was 13 years old. So I saw what that looked like when he came out with no resources, no home plan, and went right back to what he was used to and got him sent to Attica for 10 years, came home, got him sent to Sing Sing for 8 more years. These are maximum security, gun tower fence and everything else like that. So that's why I take this so personal, because it's like I wish somebody would have did this for him, and then maybe he wouldn't have ended up the way he did.
thanks, Shirley.
I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Hey, one thing we did is we have social worker in our town
Mhm.
to help us with reentry. So we're developing this whole program, but do you go to places and do presentations?
I go everywhere and do presentations, either virtually or in person. You got my information?
Because
Good. Okay.
I'm in Terre Haute, which we have a federal penitentiary. We have a ton of state penitentiary, Putnamville, Rockville, Carlisle, just all around area. And I think it would be really good for you to come there and do some presentations.
That's fine. Let me know. Appreciate you. How are you, madam?
Good. Just wanted to say that you were the best presenter that I've been to in this whole conference.
Wow, I appreciate that. This is actually my first time here, so I appreciate that.
I learned a lot, and then just. No, it's good.
Absolutely, I thank you.
Oh, Montana, the native population is 50% more incarcerated than race.
Well, you know why that is. They still stealing land. I know. I do, madam. Here you go. Here's a rat card. It's a little breakdown of the program. Sure, absolutely. Okay, which one are you? Okay.
I just wanted to thank you on some.
I like that.
ADHD that's been incarcerated and had to reintegrate and get my life back together. I love that you guys are doing that in such a kind of a marginalized community.
I appreciate that.
There, even though I'm in Idaho, but we have a lot of people incarcerated with disabilities. For advocacy, I'm already hosting with therapists.
Okay.
So I do, I work with children and teenagers and young adults and stuff, but I also host like substance abuse support groups, especially as an ex-addict who was self-medicating to run minor urges. There's a huge intersection between being neurodivergent and getting in trouble all through our life, just like the school to prison pipeline you're talking about. I was constantly in trouble, constantly had my own seat and instant suspension that I automatically just got sent to every day without even getting a chance. And I love, like, you guys are, I didn't even realize anyone was doing this to this capacity in any state. So I'm just like so inspired and blown away by what you guys are doing.
I appreciate that.
especially with the public service.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Still send me anything. Me too. I waited all weekend. Yeah.
I thank you.
Oh, the Nursery project. Things that I hear, I'm like, really?
It's
Like, do that people die in prison?
they don't care. They don't care. But you die, we got someone else to come in and fill your spot very easily.
Oh, and like I said, I live in Wisconsin, so it's okay. It's a worse state for like colored people.
Well, one of them.
Just the people in that area are very ignorant. It's just like, okay, you have to unlearn everything that you've been taught.
That's generational racism.
Because that whole like lady that called, I don't remember what state it was in, but she was, this guy was bird watching, remember she had the police on him, and she made up lies. And I'm like, I'm like, you know, as a white person, you determine know that you have that power.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, but I'm like, I would never do that. I'm like, I know that I have that kind of power.
Absolutely.
And you could do that. And she's like, not here. I'm like, you're so good.
Yes, you can. Yeah. White privilege is very much alive today in every state.
So thank you so much.
I thank you. My God, man. How are you? You're not too far from me. You're not too far. Yeah, reach out.
I guess if I email you, can you email me the PowerPoint?
Absolutely. Just email me, send me the PowerPoint, and I'll send it right to you. It's not even an issue.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate you, man. I thank you. I tried. I know you do. I'm trying. I'm trying. That's my guy.
So what you're doing?
That's my guy. That's fine. Okay, let's go.
I'll be the tall one.
You like to take a picture?
Nah, I got a good one. Thank you. I'm
Oh,
gonna leave you alone.
Oh, Adrian, I said hello. Yeah, well, you know, that's all right. That's okay. You got a good teacher.
Okay, I've got one question that I think I may.
Lay it on me.
But when is there somebody, an advocate in the prisons that reach out to you?
As far as for referrals go,
Yeah.
yeah, we have a partnership with DAC. So the social workers and the caseworkers there, they have a medical breakdown on who has what disability. So when they have their population, and the screening process in prison is wrong anyway. Their IDD screening is only based upon an IQ test. And I can tell you, well, a son that has autism, my son is probably smarter than me, but he still has an IDD.
Yeah.
And they have no screening for traumatic brain injury whatsoever. Zero. So I've been trying to advocate for them to get with a national agency to get their screening going on in the prison population so you can have more people diagnosed. But the caseworkers, they have their population and we get maybe one referral, and then we go in and present to the entire population. And that's how we get all of our referrals. So, because if you have one that you refer to us, chances are you have 30.
Yes, okay. And then this is more of a general.
Yeah.
How does North Carolina get away with not having all their counties covered by us? Because Georgia also does not have all their counties. And, you know, our center in Kansas, we covered 37 counties out of the 100.
Yeah, there's only North Carolina has 100 counties. There's only, I think, probably 25 counties covered by us. So, yeah.
Is funding cut from the state on the federal level, or is it just this been a bit along the ones that are there?
I'm pretty sure you have like a SILC, which is the State Independent Living Council. They're the ones that decide where the SILs go. So, as you know, in order to have a SIL in whatever county, that county has to stand up and say, "Hey, you need a SIL here." And a lot of these counties are really rural. So they're like, you know what? We don't want you here anyway. See?
So, and basically because most of our population is on the east side of the state, we draw a line down the middle.
Right.
And the person that was our director at the time, if they were like, well, who wants this one? And everyone's like, he's like, oh. So that's how we ended up with that many of them.
Right.
But yeah, it was just under my understanding was that every county and every state is supposed to be covered by a center. Which is in theory, obviously.
In theory.
I just wasn't sure if your state had repercussions for not covering them all, or
Nope.
that were. Because I was looking for somebody that was moving to Georgia from Kansas to be back near their family. And I was trying to find a connection for them.
And there's no SIL. Yeah. Yep. We go through that all the time.
That's sad.
It is, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it. No, thank you.
Thank you. A lot.
Good. That's what this is about, education.
You have good evening.
You too. I thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Okay.
See, that also system impact. So a lot of things you spoke about resonated with that.
I'm sure. So you already know.
As being the diversion of entry policy, I've been there for 4 months. 4 months. I'm trying to see how I can build a program now to be very effective.
Of course. I appreciate that.
Did you all have to craft any policies, get any legislation passed, and get any of the things done that you all?
No, this whole program, I started it. It was essentially my old executive director